last time I saw you, you called me Hannah.
Okay. With your permission now, we'd like to turn the lights on and begin to videotape some of your reactions. I have jotted down here some points that we kind of like to get on history. And anyone who would like to speak to any of these points, if you just when you start talking, the camera will pick up your name. Can you all do that? You can pan down and pick up the names. We talk to all the time. So I saw it through Mr. Woodley's eyes, and Mr. Woodley described it as pasture land, in large measure, pasture land. And so that was the kind of vision that I had. But I'd like for you all to what was it like before the college came to the north side? What was this area like?
I probably lived here longer than any of the other people around here. I mean, close by here. I grew up here. My dad, my granddad before me lived within a half mile of this spot. Perhaps you don't know that just north, perhaps 100 feet north of the college, was an old home site. Family of Stones owned the property starting before 1900. I don't know how far back. They had a two-story house in here, which burned when I was probably 10 years old, so it's been gone for a long time. This spot right here was one of their fields. They had a field this side of the house and another field to the north of their house, which was cultivated with corn and potatoes, sweet potato as major crops. The well, artesian well, which they had to serve the house, is just north of this pond north of the college here. And it's a little interesting that when we were talking about getting this property together for the college, that well was running free. And this whole area, though it's basically a sandy area, was quite wet. And the first comment from the city of Jacksonville was, oh, this was too low, we couldn't do anything with it. And some of us took the city engineer out and showed him the well, and they plugged it. Of course, later on it broke through and gave problems to the pond here. The artesian well water had too much sulfur in it for the fish that they had stocked the pond with, and so it created some problems. But I don't believe I can give you the ownerships after the Stones. There was a family of Roberts, I think, that bought it from the Stones, that lived in the house for a while after the Stones left the place. And after that, I don't know the sequence of land ownerships down to the present. My family's ownership cornered over here where the Lake Bethesda is now, and by the time the college came into being, it was mostly grown up to scrub and pine saplings. The old fields were hardly visible from the old stone place. The two people, John Gravely and Bill Wilkerson, are really the ones that brought the people together, that put this thing together. Without the activities of particularly John Gravely and Bill Wilkerson in doing legwork, they just didn't give up. They kept coming to see us and Mr. Woodley and the Hollins and Zell. They just didn't give up. They kept on working with it. And so I think the Northside Businessmen's Club is the one that deserves the credit for pulling this thing together. Here, wanted something on the north side to get things moving. We wanted the educational facility, but we also wanted something or other that would be a gathering spot on the north side. We felt that the north side had not been getting its share of development countywide, and this was a basic reason for getting involved in it. We thought that the education facility of the college would be a drawing card for the north side.
It wasn't just the north side, they were thinking of Nassau County too, in concerning education for the young people. That it would be an easy drive to this campus for Nassau County.
If we could turn the camera on at this point.
Okay. I would just like to echo his feelings with regard to the Northside Businessmen's Club, but in our discussions, a great deal of it centered around what we could do to advance education in the north side, and not just all of it going on to the south side, but it was also a concern with Nassau County. If you located the campus here, all students coming from Nassau County could easily get here through US 1. Now, this was prior, we now remember, 20 years ago, 95 and 295. 295 was being thought of, or even a survey that I know of. But, so that was one of the points, putting it here.
Thank you.
Around 1960, we began to read about having a junior college within 30 miles of the students' home. In 62, we began to take a little action. In 63, began to take a little more. In 64, vice president of the Northside Businessmen's Club, we developed the action in the committee that resulted in those that received the same desire or enthusiasm or motivation. Little things done are a whole lot better than big things planned and never done. And we felt like we could engage with Southside in a tug of war for the location. So Bill Wilkerson, Wilkinson is actually the way he spells his name, deserves at least co-equal share with John Gravely. Mr. Wilkinson, Mr. Gravely, and myself went out to Mr. Woodley's father's home over here and talked with Mr. M.M. Woodley. And we discussed the idea. Broward's also had offered land, but it seemed like they changed rules occasionally. Had to be so far from a railroad track, and had to be accessible by expressway and so forth, and had to be 160 acres of free land. And of course we knew that we didn't have any free land, but we did know that we had a strong desire. There was a lady retired from Ortega Elementary School, Ms. Elizabeth Reed Hobbs. She's gone now, but she instilled in me as a boy desire for higher education. Although I was not fortunate enough to achieve higher education. My wife says and not talk too much about that. Dr. E. Robbins Kimball, who lives next to me, asked me once, which university did you attend? His background is Yale and Harvard. I told him I graduated from Knox College. He says, oh, I know where that is. That's in Galesburg, Illinois. I said, well, Dr. Kimball, I said, that's a different one than I'm speaking of. But I believe that if you try, you'll make a difference. And so many people don't ever try to do anything. So I got Bill Wilkerson enthused idea that we could put it together some way, somehow. It was quite difficult because you, the landowners, didn't have vast acreages of land. As later on, I did talk to Judge Ollie Edmonds, and he and his partner owned up to 5,000 acres. And Bill Boosler, who administered the North Shore Development Corporation, which is owned by Columbia University, they owned 23,000 acres out there, and no more than that at one time. It was the remains of the old August Lecture estate. And I called Judge Ollie Edmonds one night in California and talked to him about an hour, and he said, I'll give 600 acres to the 1,200 if you talk to Bill Boosler and get him to give 600, which I did. And I confronted Governor Claude Kirk as he entered Robert Meyer Hotel, he and his bodyguards. I stepped out in front of him and said, I have 1,200 acres on behalf of Judge Ollie Edmonds and North Shore Development Corporation, Columbia University, and Bill Boosler to offer to you. He said, well, on this one you didn't start in time enough, you ran fast enough, but it's all cut and dried. And it's going over, and that acreage didn't come free. Although they didn't get all that it was probably worth, $750,000, they built a road down about $1 million a mile. If it had gone along New Berlin Road, there would have been the present I-295 coming around through there. But we were active in the moving of the Jacksonville Airport, the $25 million bond issue with Dave Rawls, and the building of this campus, because my desire to see every child, white or any color, educated. Doesn't make any difference. Some of that comes from an ancestor, Jabez Lamar Monroe Curry, J.L.M. Curry. He administered the Peabody Fund and the Slater Fund, and I'm sure that Dr. Bryant is familiar with those funds. And his statue stands in the Hall of Statuary in Washington, D.C. And I have some religious ancestors that came over on a leaky wooden sailing boat in 1620. There's 3 of them. So I have a strong religious background. I don't have a strong academic background, but I do have strong motivation. And in the Army, they said, do something even if it's wrong. So the following couple of years, John Gravely joined the club. Now, John was crippled in his body, but his 10 billion brain cells all work. Between his ears is the greatest gift that God has ever given to a human being. And I felt that if he and Bill would continue on, and we'd go up to Callahan, we'd drive around in various ways, but Bill Wilkinson, William F. Wilkinson, and John Gravely, those two really carried the idea on to you, the landowners, and of course your generosity it could not have been done without your generosity and your participation in it. Do something from an altruistic motive with no idea of gain from it. Now, Mr. E.H. Hardy along Capper Road told me, he said, Mr. Allen, I'll give you 40 acres of land here and sign over the deed to you. You develop it and pay me for it when you develop it. And I told Mr. Hardy, I said, Mr. Hardy, I wouldn't know what to do with it if you gave it to me, although my son has been fortunate to have developed a lot of things. Maybe I'm talking too much, but I do appreciate each of you and the part that we have all had in playing this game of life. And what you put good into the lives of others has its own reward built into it. It will come back to you. And just the making and breaking of God's laws and the laws of the land has within it the punishment and reward enough. Even if people didn't say thank you, that's good. But since you did say thank you, it's like the 10 lepers that the master healed, and one returned, and he was a Samaritan, and said thank you. So thank you.
Thank you. That's beautiful. Remember, go back and all those details. We got it on tape. We will go back and transcribe it and pick it up. Thank you, Mr. Allen. Thank you. So there you had the community leaders carrying the ball, trying to get the landowners, to convince the landowners, and we had the landowners responding. What about a consensus, as far as the landowners were concerned? Did it all go well? Was it smooth? How, from your vantage point, perspective, what were you all thinking about?
Well, Zeke, I think I got in on it fairly late. I met the people from Northside Men's Club called on us, and between Mr. Hollins and myself, his North End Company, and the Woodleys, we own all this tract, and we got several people who are going to work out some land swaps, and most of the land swaps went through. But the thing that amazed me the most and impressed me the most is two things. One is, I always think of Elwood Geiger as a walking history book. Anytime I ever want to know anything about this property, if I just get hold of him, he'll tell you. He'll say there used to be an old dairy over there. He told me the whole story of it, and he's a walking history book, and I was glad you got him on tape. I think that's very important for the campus. But they were talking about Johnny Gravely. I didn't do much with Bill Wilkerson, but Johnny Gravely, he was paralyzed from the waist down, and he would get on those two crutches, and he could outrun most good people. And persistent, the most persistent man I think I've ever dealt with. And when it was clear cut that the campus wasn't going to come out on the north side, everybody believed it except Johnny Gravely, and he kept it alive and kept it working and put the land together. And I just think that I would hope, Zeke, that you would do some research on Johnny Gravely, because I think this campus being on this site, without any question, for one for the north side businessmen, and thank goodness you had sense enough to put a committee on there that included Johnny Gravely, but I really think that he was the unsung hero of this campus. And he'd go back in his old beat-up office there, just had a small room, and he had plans hanging all over the place, and on the floor and everything, and he would draw another sketch and lay out land and put it together and bring people back together, the committee did. But I think that he's the unsung hero of this campus, and I don't think that Northside would have this kind of educational facility if it wasn't for Johnny.
It's an interesting coincidence that one of the strengths of this campus is our disabled student services program. It's probably done more for disabled citizens in this part of Florida than any other program.
Well, I'd like to see a plaque and a picture of him up there as that total commitment. When I was younger and wasn't as smart as I am now, hopefully, I'll call him a crippled individual, but he's just handicapped. And like Mr. Allen said, he had more brain cells working in more different directions, all like a spider, bringing everything back to the middle. Anybody I've ever seen. And I see some heads nodded, so I know that's true. But you had another question on here that I wanted to speak to if I can. And you're talking about the development of the campus and the future of this Northside campus. And I'm really excited about this campus, and I've been involved with the college for a long time, but until Chuck Spence came here, and Chuck's determined to get this campus going and making it a full and viable part of our community college system, and the new building going up out there, which will be open before September, and is going to be a great credit in the culinary arts programs he's going to put out here, the college is going to put out here, are going to be the top programs in this country, because there's a commitment made by the president, it's backed up by the trustees, that this is going to be, if not the top program, it'll be one of the top 2 programs in America. And young people from all over the country will be coming in to take courses or to participate in our culinary arts course. And I know they have plans on the way to move more programs out here, and Zeke is going to get so busy that I think it's wonderful, but there is a major commitment to this campus, and you're going to see a really dynamic campus just blooming and very rapidly. Thank you, Zeke.
Well, thank you. We're going to be looking to the Northside Businessmen Club for their support and involvement, leadership, etc., as well as everybody in this room. Mr. Hart.
for me to say. God, please take care of practically every aspect of the whole works. But it's true, we had a lot of meetings, and we did a lot of talking and everything. It was really an honor and a pleasure to be able to be in with all the rest of the gentlemen and the whole property. And I would say that I think we're doing a very, very fine job.
Now, Mel is called Uncle Mel by a lot of people in this college because of the affection people have for you.
So a lot of people call me Uncle Mel, but they just don't know that I'm not Uncle.
Uncle Mel, I would like you to, if you don't mind, talk about what you've seen happen here. Tell me how you feel about, because you're pretty close to Washington College. What do you feel good about what we've done?
Fantastic. That's the only thing way I can say about it. It's been fantastic, and I think we're going in the right direction. I think it's going to be one of the finest junior colleges in the country. I really do.
How we come to some say descendants, but sons and grandsons of the donors. They were not main stage, but they were standing around and they heard the conversations and they had a feel of what was going on. And I'd like to hear from Mr. Woodley's son and then the Johnson son.
Well, ironically, when they first started, when it came out in the paper, we were going to have a community college, Virginia College in Jacksonville. I talked with Dad, got a price per acre on the land, and called the man who had been campaign, I guess he was chairman of Haydenburg's campaign, who had been the mayor of Jacksonville and then gone to be governor of the state. It broke during his tenure as governor. He was only there 2 years, and I think he was ahead of his time. He wanted to build a lot of roads, and it's so big bond issues and so on, and they voted him out after that period of time. But at any rate, I contacted the gentleman, and his name escapes me right now, but I worked with him because I had a high regard for Hayden Burns. And he told me then that it was going to be a gift type situation, and that there was several other people had offered to give land. So we just kind of dropped it at that point. They were not going to be buying land. Later, Dad came back and talked to me about it, and of course he's always had a fond regard for Mel Hollins over here, like you said, Uncle Mel. I don't think he called him Uncle Mel, but he referred to him as Mr. Hollins, and I believe it's Mr. Zell, and both of them I remember him talking about. They were in favor of it, and he talked about Geiger and Johnson, and they're getting in on the thing, and he invited my opinion on it. And I told him I thought it would be a good thing. As you knew Dad quite well, anything he did, he took care of himself to some degree. And that was the thing. He knew that it would enhance the value of the other property he had in this area, as it enhanced what the Geigers and Johnsons had. And I think with the north, I'm not sure what you call it now, north end land, everybody would benefit from it ultimately. And he was convinced it was a good thing that these other people were going into it, and he went into it, though he gave perhaps a few more acres than some of the others. He had the acres right across from it, which hopefully before too long will be Cambridge Estates in there. But we're just waiting on some stuff to break through on that. But I think the college has been great, and incidentally, some of the names you were talking about, I saw the original deeds on them, copies of the original deeds, Stone, Robinson. I don't remember the others, but I will get with you sometime. I've got a stack. Daddy kept papers from everything, and I would not throw his stuff away. I'm a pack rat too. But I'll go over and dig some of the stuff out. And in fact, Dr. Bryant, I have a set of plans. It's not a full set of plans, but it's a set of plans that someone brought Dad on the original building. If you'd like it for your archives or whatever, I'll get with you on it. But I think it's a good thing for it, and I think it's been a great thing for the north side, to the community of Jacksonville in general.
Thank you.
I wish to say one other thing. You know, Mr. Woodley and I were pretty friendly for a long time, and he knew everybody in my family. And I used to go oversee it quite a bit after he was around close to 90. We became very friendly until he became sick and everything, and I didn't see him for quite some time. But he was really a gentleman of the character. I'd say thank you.
Well, Dr. Bryant, I'm just flattered to be invited here. I don't get any credit for having made this happen, but I'd like to join in saying that I was very favorably impressed as just a kid at the time to overhear some of the conversations and to be aware of the public-spirited attitude that motivated Mr. Gravely, who I knew and who I admired. And I am glad that it's been talked about tonight today that Mr. Gravely really does have a special tie to this college. Not only did he make this college come into existence, but it is a very important and significant coincidence, because it wasn't necessarily planned this way, that this college does have such an important role for handicapped students. Mr. Gravely did make it obvious that a very debilitating handicap. I mean, he was very limited. The man had many health problems other than just that his legs didn't work. But despite his physical limits, he just made many things around him happen, and he was determined to make them happen. And I admired Mr. Gravely and his family. His wife was a geometry teacher of mine at Paxton High School. But I would join in saying that I admired all the folks involved here. I think that we talk about how that this improved the economic values in the area. Well, maybe it did. I guess it did. But and certainly that was a consideration. But I believe that Mr. Zell, and Mr. Hollins, and Mr. Woodley, and my father Earl Johnson, and my uncle Charles, and my cousin down the table, Elwood Geiger, that all these people felt that it was important for North Jacksonville that this campus be here, regardless of whether they could figure out exactly how they were going to anytime soon make a buck out of the fact that this campus occurred. In fact, there have been many fits and starts over the years as far as Northside development. There have been times with the hopes for offshore power systems, with the Dames Point Bridge or other things. There have been many times that our expectations from Northside have been raised and then they've fallen. And you can't necessarily be sure just what is going to make development occur. But I think that these folks did have a very important public-spirited attitude about them, that they felt that regardless of whether they could prove out how directly they were going to in any way benefit from it, they felt that the whole North Side needed to have this campus here. And I'm glad to see the campus here. And if I comment as far as our hopes or visions for the future, I hope that we all feel that this campus, even though it's done a good thing, or that we ain't seen nothing yet, there is a crying need in North Side for more effort than any other part of Jacksonville as far as the elevation of our average level of educational achievement. North Side hurts academically and educationally in many ways. And I hope that we can all here pitch in to push for those policies that will give us more subjects, more offerings, more professors, more hours per day, more days per week, more weeks per year. I'd like to see this campus do much, much more and be available all day and night for even more things. It's all somewhat of a circular proposition. It requires that those of us not on the campus do more to promote this junior college and to help get the word out that there are things here available that can change people's lives that so many folks around here don't even know about. But we all need to pitch in and do better in promoting this campus. And I was honored for a short period of time to serve as a legislator for this part of town and to work with Dr. Bryant, who was the head of the campus, as he still is. And I think that all legislators would have a better appreciation for the values of their junior colleges if all legislators had the opportunity to have a Dr. Bryant as the honcho for the college in their district.
Thank you, Andy. When you talk about the North Side, you're talking about something that's dear to my heart. I moved on the North Side in 1955, and it makes sense. I served as principal of a school on the North Side. I was the second principal at William Raines High School on the North Side. And I was principal when we went through the process of integrating the Highlands community with the Rains and all of that. So, and then I was assigned, when I became provost, I was assigned to the North Campus. So the North Side has been the center for me. I share all the dreams and desires and aspirations and loyalties to this section of town that you do. Mr. and Mrs. Charles Johnson, I don't think we've had you on camera yet, so join us with any comments.
I would like to tell you the first time I heard anything about people giving the land for the campus. I was working in our office. We were still in the dairy business at that time. And one afternoon when no one was in the office but me, Ted Alvarez Jr., who was at one time the legislator for this area, came to see Papa Johnson and Earl and Charles. And of course they weren't there. And he said, well, Betty, I'll tell you what I want. And he says, we want some land. And we want a college over here. We talked about the need of the North Side for further facilities for education. And so I said, well, I will certainly tell them and I'll make a note of it. And now I don't know whether Ted ever saw anybody else again. His name hasn't been mentioned until now, today. But he called on us. And I told each one of the Earl and Charles about it. And in our home, we began to think of what we could possibly give. Most of the land that we wanted was to be south of Dunn Avenue. And we just happened to have a piece of land that was on the south side of Dunn Avenue. And so we were very fortunate in having that because that kept our dairy itself intact.
All right.
If I might add, the Times Union and Channel 412 and 17 gave quite a bit of coverage of the actions that Northside Businessmen's Club took in 1965. And in 1964, when we really originated the committee, the educational committee. Some of the men functioned well, some did not. Mr. Gravely, just like off in a camera, or it doesn't make any difference, was not a member at that time. He became a member in 1966 or 1967. But William F. Wilkinson enthused Mr. Gravely with the idea. But he had been enthused in turn by the committee actions that he and I took. He'd been a major, I believe, in the Army during the Second War, and he had good organizational ability. So we put the committees together. An idea isn't worth anything unless you put some legs under it, you put it into action. And that's where John Gravely and Bill Wilkinson and myself, we drove up to Callahan, we'd drive to different places. Even Stan Jordan, chairman of the school board, told me that as a young fellow, he had assisted Bill Wilkinson's son. And so there are many, many different people who input the resulting campus here. They say faith is the title deed to that which you believe for. And so that's what we, along with you, believe. So
This is
those two, I think,
this
should
is
go.
oral history. Oral history. We're getting it together right here today. You can see the Northside Businessmen. If it's our vision, our goal, it's our vision that the North Campus, will continue to serve the district-wide mission that it does in nursing and culinary arts and hospitality, all those kind of things. But in addition to that college-wide, community-wide mission, we want to be the post-secondary education center of the North Side. We want all roads on the North Side to lead to the North Campus. Whether it's playing tennis, running around the track, playing softball, having meetings on our campus, using the new culinary arts facility, we want you to think of the North Campus as as your campus. That's why we put out this community newsletter. We put out our first community newsletter. The next community newsletter will have your pictures in it. And we're going to write up some of the things that we're talking about here today and send it out to the community. And Mr. McMurray, I want the Northside Businessmen Club to reach out and embrace this campus and breathe into it as your campus. This is your campus. We want this identity with your organization and for you to work with us. Now, around the corner, let's come on around and allow the first provost of the campus and the staff executive who is responsible for helping to put the logistics together and so forth to get it started, to have a few comments to get you all on camera too. Oliver Finch, first provost.
Thank you, Dr. Bryant. As I listen to all of this history, I'm hearing a lot of it for the first time. Some of it I already knew. But if you look over to that tower there, that's where it all started. We did not have any finished rooms from that point. We moved in August. They said, you're going to open the North Campus. It was not ready. It doesn't make any difference. We're committed. So I guess I enjoyed the fruits and the fun and the challenges of a lot of work that had already gone before me. But that's where we started. And that tower right there that most of you can see from here. And we had, for the first time in my years in education, we had plenty of parking spaces, more than we needed at that time, but we didn't have a chair in the house. We had parking lots and not a chair in the house. And what happened, the students were so impressed with the facility and what was offering it. And this was the first public higher education in Duval County, in northeast Florida. And they were so happy just to be here, they just sat on that carpet. We had carpet. I mean, I've heard of carpet on floors up here. And the nursing program was where the bookstore was and the food service, and we just kept moving. We did not have bookshelves in the library yet until October. But we got them up pretty quick, and that's still one of the prettiest places anyway. You just walk in that library there. That, I think, is still the original carpet.
Original carpet. Original furniture.
And there are thousands and millions of feet going across that thing. It was a passageway from A to the bridge. I'm sorry, C, B, and A, and that was the camp. We had a few $1,000 to decorate the lawn, the yard. We took every bit of it and put it in that little square because we knew that $6,000 wasn't going anywhere on 100 and some acres. And we brought a staff together, we brought programs together, and really we were in full operation with everything going. The last things came online were on the A building, when we got the nursing program moved over. We had the vocational technical program over there. And yes, Mr. Geiger was here. I well remember him. Mr. Woodley, talking about that. My little office right over here. He came over one day and talking about a planned unit development. That was a new thing and flood. And I guess one of these days it's coming online somewhere there. And I well remember one day, Bo Cotton and Mr. Wood were good friends. And we'd visit with them occasionally. I remember one day he asked us to go, and we got in his boat and went up to US 1. Came back down the river there. Talking about handicap programs, let me just mention two people. Former dean up here of adult vocational education, Peter Wright, and Reverend Wynn, came up with some ideas that I was pleased to be a part of. Pete Wright was, I guess, responsible for that first working with a student over the telephone. Started right here. Best of my knowledge, the first time I've been involved with it. Reverend Wynn and Dean Wright became good friends. And that was sort of the beginning so far as the North Campus was concerned, and then some all in it. that goes back a long time. Because I was here the first 3 or 4 years. It's still the prettiest campus from the natural setting that we have. I don't know, Dr. Spence, what that new and Mandarin might look like, the way you put it on the river there, but this is still a beautiful campus up here. There are many people who receive some things that they never would have without your contributions. They'll never know it. So I'm pleased for that reason to put some of this down. And I don't know where it is, Dr. Bryant, but somewhere there's a picture where some of the daughters were sitting right there on that open space in front of that building. When you had the dedication, and some of them were sitting on, that goes back a long time. And I'm just pleased that I'm still around seeing it growing. This place is about 2.5 times what it was when I left here, in terms of facilities and staffing is good and programming. And I thank you for letting me come and reminisce along with you, because those were some exciting years. I enjoyed the fruits of what you did, and the challenges and the fun, and I just hope it keeps moving. And Northside businessmen and others, they made it possible. Because you were competing. I didn't know all the politics, but I found out some of them later. They were up against some real powerful forces who wanted campuses on the south side, and they pulled it off. And a lot of people are grateful for it and don't even know it. Thank you for letting me.
Okay, I think we need to let Ed speak in defense of himself, since he was responsible for getting the campus set up and he gave you no chairs. So.
Well, I was the academic team, worked for this guy, so he still had the problem. My job was, I was going to move up here as the dean and over the academic program. And so for the whole year, I spent the time convincing the faculty it's all right, you know, where is it located and all this kind of stuff, in Capper Road, and that's miles, you know, way back up miles from nowhere kind of deal. And so we really, they all came off the campus primarily, and a few off the south side. So we had a lot of convincing the whole year to convince the faculty and staff, and moving compartments, moving all their equipment and them, and then ordering all the new furniture. Well, the problem was the campus opening date kept getting, you know, supposed to open this time, and then come 30 days, it'll open 30 days, and 30 days, next thing you know, you kept delaying the delivery dates to the point that you wasn't going to have anything. But the discussion was very clear, we're going to open up that campus, period. So the decision was made, let's open them up and let's let them go wherever they are. Well, in the meantime, on July 1, I changed jobs and never came to this campus. Physically was never assigned to this campus, but all the moves and all the people and all the program was my responsibility at that time. So that's how I got involved. And it was a wonderful experience. And a lot of wonderful, committed people who were kind of pioneers, making things work, and that kind of enthusiasm just has been exhibited by you. The staff and faculty moved up here in the same commitment, and that's what really made this thing really move to get off. Because, you know, a lot of people just wouldn't teach when you just say there's a huge open space there and there's nothing in it, and then there's a group over here teaching, and people over there, and again. And that's the kind of dedication the staff and faculty have, and that was wonderful, because most of them were volunteers. You talk to them, they're going and so on and so forth. So, wonderful experience for me. I'm just sorry I didn't get out there.
Okay, we're going to have the last word by our president. But before we do that, let me make one disclaimer. I asked you to sort of pencil in your calendar for Tuesday, August the 21st. The president called my attention that it may be Monday, August the 20th. So I don't know whether it's going to be the 20th or 21st, but I'll let you know just as soon as that date is firm. But we're talking about 9 o'clock in the morning in the auditorium. I want you to come, and we may try to see if we can, as Mr. Gravely is the senator or something's around, we may try to get him involved too. I don't know. I'll listen to you all. Yes, sir.
Patty just brought up Kid Alvarez Jr.'s name. I think it ought to be pointed out that he was active in getting this thing. He was the state representative at that time. And the interchange in the Avenue and 295 is partially due to his activity. The original plan for 295 295 did not have an interchange with Dunn Avenue. And the fact that the college was going in here was the deciding factor as far as DOT was concerned in putting the interchange in there. And Ted Jr. had at least considerable responsibility for getting all those facts together. And he was an early pusher for the college. I think I'm right that he's the first one that came to see me about it.
I arrived on the scene very late. I didn't join the club until 1983. That's 13 years after the campus was organized. But I'd like to just comment briefly on the Northside Businessmen Club. It was back in 1952, I believe, or 53, that a group of businessmen, a small group of businessmen, met in a restaurant on the Trout River, and they decided they would organize a civic group. And the purpose of the civic group was to promote the growth and development of the city of Jacksonville, with particular emphasis on the north side. And that's how this club got started. And we all know you can't have growth. No community can grow without a decent system of education. So I'm glad that our predecessors, my predecessors, had the foresight to put such an effort in and to go out and swap land and get a contiguous area here for the campus. Because right now, 20 years later, there are thousands of students that have passed through these halls, and they're playing a leadership role now in not only in Jacksonville or in Florida, but in various cities and states. And I'm very happy to be invited here today. And we're going to take you up on your word. We're going to come out here. We're going to, as a group, we'll come out and we'll have a meal out here after you get those buildings built. Thank you for inviting me.
I'd like to just end the tape by thanking you for your early interest and your early commitment to this institution. When we look at what happens on all of our campuses today, and we've got 5 campuses, we've got 4 physical campuses and an open campus. The president is not supposed to compare campuses. It's like having children. You love all of your children equally, and they're all good, but they're all different. Well, it's too bad that we're videotaping this, because I'll have to tell you the truth about the North Campus, and the other campuses might see this at some point, and I'll get in trouble. But when we look at issues of how well a campus is taken care of, how productive people are, when we look at issues of pride, that's a clue in terms of how people feel about a campus. When we look at how well a campus does in terms of supporting things like the United Way, giving back to your community. It's interesting to me that this campus leads clearly in every one of those issues of all of our campuses, and I think that that kind of commitment and giving back obviously started with the people in this room and the kind of spirit with which you made this happen. And I want you to know that that spirit, many, many decades later now, continues in this campus in terms of the leadership of the campus from Dr. Bryant and the faculty and staff who work here. Let me just close again by telling you, you have made a gigantic difference in a lot of people's lives. And I, on behalf of those people, the hundreds of thousands of students